In this video, I will be discussing how to install different versions and different packages of Blender from your distro repositories package of maybe 2.79 all the way up to a version of 2.83 all the way up to Blender 3.0. And we'll show you some of the problems you might encounter during the install and how to get Blender set up and performing well for you, and then how to do a little professional video editing in Blender, the newest version 3.0. Okay, let's get started. Okay, some of you have seen this video on How to Pam YouTube channel. It's a video that tests 10 of the FOSS video editors for Linux operating systems that are out there. There are others, but they're not open source. So this is the free open source software that's available for you. Some of you have seen that, and you might have asked, as some people have in the comments, what about Blender? Okay. And I've left Blender out of this test because Blender is so much more capable that I just didn't want to group it in with these plain video editors. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at Blender, and let's do some professional video editing with Blender. Now the first thing you'll notice about Blender is it comes in many different flavors. Here's a couple of app images that you can find around the internet, and they may be what you want to use. As well, Blender 3.0 is out now, and it's available as a Flatpak. So if you don't know what Flatpaks are, you can check that out on the internet, and maybe you'd be interested in installing the Flatpak. Some of you just want to use the Blender from your distro's repository. And if you look here, you can see that in Debane's, this is Debane 10 Buster repository, you will see that the version that's available is 2.79. Now there's nothing wrong with that as well, but 2.79 is a few years old now. It is stable. However, there was some problems with 2.79, and I'll show you what that is here, okay? There are many different flavors, and there are problems with some of them. You take a look at, for instance, if we take a look at this here Blender version 2.90, let's just open it up here. This is an app image, and as you will see, some of the graphics here is not quite right. However, if you look here, this is a beta version, okay? So they start out in alpha and then go to beta and then go to a public release. So this is not a completely stable version. And you can see here we're missing some graphics. Now the program does work, but there are other versions of Blender out there that do have no issues at all that you might want to use, okay? This other app image here of version 8, 2.83, wonderful version of Blender. If we have a look at that, you can see here that everything is functional on this graphical interface. So no problem with that app image, 2.8.3, that's fine. Now, we do have 2.79, which was available in Debane's repository, and it too had a little bit of problems, but very nice program, very stable, and the problems are easy enough to overcome. One thing I like about Blender here is that you can change the different themes, and that's nice. Once you close that splash image there, if you go to File and go to User Preferences, you'll see that the themes are here again. And if you look at the presets here, you can choose different theme presets, and that's a wonderful thing. One thing that you want to pay particularly close attention to in all of these Blender versions, no matter which one you get, is go to the System tab in here and scroll down to look at the memory cache limit. Now, some of the newer Blender versions set the memory cache limit way up to 4 gigabytes. Now, if you haven't got 4 gigabytes of RAM in your machine, you're going to have problems. It's going to not render, it's going to crash, it's just not going to work for you. So you come in here and set this back to something reasonable. 1024, okay? And that will help the system operate within your system resources correctly. So be certain that you go into the preferences that you can find under the file, and you can change your theme and make sure the RAM is set to something available within your limits. Okay? So the other problem we had with 2.79 was when you go to render a video, you will see here that when we choose these render settings, encoding here, under the encoding, we can see for the audio here. In the audio, this is very important with 2.79. You can see different versions of audio, AC3, AAC, MP3, okay? If you choose AC, which is a very popular compression format for audio and recommended mostly, version 2.79 of Blender here will not render, and you'll be pulling your hair out trying to figure out what's wrong. Not a problem. Either choose MP3 or AC3, but do not choose AAC or Blender 2.7.9 will not render your video. And of course, videos are in here, and of course the rendering is up here. But if you do not set your audio encoder to MP3 or AC3, but rather choose AAC, it will not render. Okay? So make sure you choose probably MP3 would be satisfactory for you there. Okay, so you see all these different Blender versions, and I happen to have Flatpak here, a Blender 3.0. So let's fire up the Flatpak version of Blender 3.0, the newest one, and let's do some professional video editing. When you first open this up, the initial splash screen will give you an option to set a theme here. However, as I showed you before, you can easily go into Edit Preferences and change the theme, which we will do. You can also, from the splash screen, go to Video Editing right here. Okay? And as you work on files and save them, the next time you open up Blender, it will have your latest files here, and you can just choose the file you want and go into that. Now, this is 3.0.0, and to get started, we just click over here and get rid of this splash screen. Okay? Now, again, I will show you that we must go into Preferences when you're first setting up, and you can see that the preference screen is a little bit different. Here is Themes, and we do have presets. Okay, if you choose XSI, that will use one type of theme, and of course we came from the dark. Maya, another with a little bit of blue. So if you prefer, that's a Blender Light, you can change individually each section of this. You can customize it to your own liking. Now, themes are not so important. The important thing is this System tab here. And again, as I say, we want to have a look under the System tab to see how much RAM memory cache limit we're using. Now, by default, Blender 3.0 will be set at 3096, I think, almost 4 gigs of RAM. Or maybe it chooses that when it installs, I'm not sure, but the point is it's too much RAM for my system, so I go here and turn this down to 1024 so that it's not eating up all my RAM while it's working. Okay, so get that set, and then you're okay. The next thing you can do, as I said earlier, you can go to Video Editing right from your splash screen here when you open it up. Every time you open up Blender, you're going to get the splash screen. If you happen to click off of the splash screen, it disappears on you, you can go back up here to this little icon and bring back your splash screen and go to Video Editing from here. Okay, so there you are there. Now, here are all the properties of your file. that we looked at in the other version 2.79, it's a little different location here. In 2.79, we had to go back to the default front screen to get to the properties. Here we can do it right from within the video editor. Now you see you have a file browser over here, and this is the view of your whatever you have on the sequence editor, the timeline here. The best thing to do is you could set these settings for the video you're making, or you could pull in your video clips and it will adjust the settings to your clips, and then you could use the settings that match your clips. But you don't have to. You could custom set these to where you want. You can see here it's 24 frames per second, and it starts and ends at 250. That means your timeline down here starts at frame 1 of your video and ends at 250. You can see it here. Of course, our video would have to be pretty short. So let's go ahead and get a video. Let's go here, and let's go here. Let's grab this video. And let's put this clip down here. Give a click. There we go. Blender, by default, in Blender 3.0, when you first load a video file up, it will automatically set up a Blender proxy directory where you bring the file in from. Okay, so I brought this file in here, and it set up a folder here. A Blender proxy folder, and inside that proxy folder it created a proxy file at 100%. Okay, it did that automatically. Blender does that. And then I went ahead and I created over here a second proxy file at 25%. That way I created this one. Now this file is much smaller than this file. If we go here, we can see that Blender created this here proxy folder, and then it created this here file, this proxy file by default, which is 900 megabytes long. Big, that's a big file. It did that. It took my machine about 30 minutes to create that. Then I went in here and created this proxy 25 file, and it's only 130 meg. Okay, so now because I've told my system to use this here 25% file, then we're going to be actually using this proxy file, which means that my system will actually have an easier time managing this file, which is 25% the size of this file. Okay, and then when we're done making our changes and we render this out, we'll change it back to 100% and make sure that we render the new video at 100% of its size. Okay, so remember that Blender will automatically, as soon as you slide a file down onto the timeline, it will create a proxy, and you'll see that happening down here. It will create a proxy at 100%, and that is a default setting. Okay, there is a video clip. Now you can see here that the green will be the audio, the blue will be the video. Now the blue is highlighted with this white line around it, and that means that I have the properties of it over here. Now if we look at the time on that video clip, we can see that it is 1,848 frames long. That's the end of it. What we'd like to do to get our timeline to include the whole clip is go down to the end here and click in that and change that to match that, 1,848. Okay, and then just click off of it, and there it is there. Now what that did is that stretched out our timeline to include the entire distance of every frame in this video. Now if we want to see that, you can see this gray portion here. This is the 0 portion of the timeline. There's a little dot on the end of this. If we grab that with our mouse, we can drag that back here, and we have the entire video clip there, all 1848 frames of it. Okay? Now, you will notice that the properties here changed from 250 to 1848. Same thing we input down here. And you will notice that this frame rate went from 24, which was the default setting here, to 30, because that is actually what these clips were recorded at. Okay? So you don't have to worry about too much in these properties, except here is the output. Now you'll certainly want to make sure that you put that video out in a place. By default it goes to temp on your root directory, but I have a folder called Blender, and it's inside my video folder, same place as this was, and that's where I would like all of my work to be put out, into that Blender folder. So just choose that and then accept that, and now you can see it's going to videos and a Blender folder inside there. Now the file format, well, if you're going to work with videos, you'll probably want FFmpeg video. Okay? And here is your color, and here is black and white. We're going to do colored video, of course. Now the next one is encoding. Okay? And with encoding, these are all the different types of compression containers that you can have for your video. MPEG-4 is quite popular. AVI, QuickTime if you're working with Apple products. Moksha, that's pretty good. There's a Flash, here's a WebM, but we like MPEG-4. It's pretty standard, especially for YouTube, stuff like that. And then here, the codecs to read MPEG-4 is H.264. Okay, that would be the codecs that actually reads the compression ratio of the MPEG-4 container. Okay, here we have a medium quality video. We could do lossless, that would be a big video. We could go high quality. Okay, high quality is good. Mediums, okay, you can get away with it. Now we have audio, and audio encoders. You've seen MP3. AC is very popular. You could choose no audio, but you probably want some audio. AC3 is a good compression ratio for Dolby sound systems, Dolby surround sound. We would use MP3 for audio, except in these videos we're going to choose AAC. Okay, and this tells us that that is 48,000 and the bit rate of 256. We could use only 192 here, we could, but we'll leave it at that. And it tells us here that we have audio of 1. That means that whatever your video was recorded at, it will have that 1. If your video was recorded a little low, you could crank that up to 2 or 3 or 4 to increase the volume. But right now we'll leave it set there because we can change the volume within the individual strip properties here. Okay, so we have that all set up there. And this is what it will render at. Now, when we're viewing our video in here, sometimes to view this video is 1920 by 1080. That's a big PNG image. And sometimes if I have 1800 frames, to view that up here, my machine is going to have to keep producing these huge files and throwing them up one after another. So one way to avoid that is in the viewer here, we can change that. We can go with 25% of the picture. Now, you can drag that too if you like. You can just grab it and drag it. But 25% will allow my machine to reproduce these images a little faster without having to put up the whole 1920 by 1080 picture for each frame. Okay, so that's good there. Now, if we go down to these strips, these are called strips. Then we have properties for these strips. This one is highlighted, and we did look at the time here, and you can see a video here, and there's not too much we have to change here, but over on the side we would have the proxies. Now what Blender likes to do is produce a proxy, which is a wise idea. Proxy will actually take your video clip and render it at 25%, 50%, 75%, so 25%. That way it makes a smaller video. It takes a little time, but it makes a smaller video. And then when you're working with your video, you're working with a smaller video, and it's more smooth to work with inside the video sequence editor here, because the files are smaller for the computer to keep painting on the screen for you. So what we'd like to do here, we're going to tell it to create a 25% proxy file for us. And here we have set selected strips as proxies. Okay, so the important thing is we choose 25% for that. And the next step would be to rebuild the proxies. But before we do that, let's go and click on the audio file. And let's have a look at the audio file. You see I'm still highlighted on proxy here. Let's go back to the strip. Okay, now this audio is a little bit low, so I do want to crank that up to about 3. Make it louder, 3 times louder than it was. Okay, so we've set the audio, and now we'd like to make sure we click mono. Mono is necessary if you want 2 channels of audio output in your rendered file. And display waveform. See this? Yeah, green. When I click display wave, then I can see the audio here, and it helps me when I'm cutting these videos to know where I can cut where there's dead space and I don't lose any voice. Okay, so let's go back to the video clip. Let's go back to proxy, and let's tell it to build this proxy. Okay, now if you watch down here, once I click this, it will start building. Now watch right down here, you will see how quick it will build. There you go. Okay, you see it there? It's building away. Right down here. Right in the bottom there. 72, 78, 80, 82, 83, 89. There you go. All finished. Now what that did is that created a smaller clip that we're working with. Okay, so it's working with a clip now 25% of the file size that it was, and it's much more easier for my computer to deal with it. The files are only 25% the size that they were. Okay, so another thing, when you're trying to cut these files and you want to get them between the audio, it's nice to have a larger representation of the audio. And to do that, we just grab this bar here on the side and we bring it down, and that will zoom in. You see that audio wave get bigger? Okay, and now we grab this one on the end, and let's go all the way back to the beginning here. Okay, so you can see my indicator bar here. Now you can see we have dead space here. So we would like to move up to where we get rid of this frame and we have the start frame. Let's go ahead and move that up, the indicator. Oh, there, you see that? Okay, now if you look down here in this right corner, you can see I'm on frame 42. Let's increase that. That's 43. Okay, I would like to cut that off there and get rid of that first section of video. Now to cut, we're going to have to actually select both of these. Now we could actually select the one and then hold the shift key down and select the other one. We could do that. Or we could just press the left mouse key and drag this box down, and that selects them. Now that we have them selected, we push the K key. You see that? It sliced them. Now, if I select these over here by using a box select and press the X key, they disappear. Okay, but now my video is no longer on the 0 or 1 frame in the timeline. So let's go and push this button here and bring the indicator back to 0. Now let's select both of these strips here and let's push the G key. That will group them together. And then let's slide them up. Now when you're coming close to the end here, it's pretty hard to get 1 frame at a time. So if you push the shift key down as you're dragging them, you'll have better control. You see that? We can go up 1 frame at a time. If you hold the shift key down, there we go. And then click when you get them where you want them. Okay, so now you can see with this here audio here, we can tell there's no voice here. So we can just move our indicator up and we could cut it there. Now, I find when I'm speaking that the end of my words trail on a little bit. So I don't want to cut too close to the end of this voice here. I will cut out the trail of my words. So let's move ahead a little bit more. Okay, they're both selected. Let's press the K key and we cut them. Now, you notice this side is still selected. So let's move ahead here. And I can come a little closer to the beginning of my speech because I don't trail on in the beginning, only in the end. Let's press the K key. Okay. Now let's drag a box select around those two and let's press the X key and they're gone. Let's box select these two. Let's press the G key and for group select and move them together. Move them together until you see the red line and then click. That red line tells you that you've overlapped the joint. But if you click it, Blender will automatically, magnetically move it to where it wants it and make a perfect scene. Okay, so let's move the indicator again. Now you can see I do have some voice here, probably trailed on from this word. I don't want to cut that off, miss some audio there. So we can go a little bit back, but not much. Maybe there. We're both selected here, so let's press the K key and let's cut that. Now let's move the indicator up here a little bit and let's cut that with the K key. Okay, these are both selected. Let's press the X. Now let's box select these two, press the G key and bring them together with your mouse till the red lines are there and then click. Okay, now you see I'm running out of room here, so we're going to grab this here bar down here and drag it this way. Okay, but you notice as I drag this way, my visual representation of the audio is getting smaller, so let's grab this end here and bring it up, and that'll make it bigger. Okay, so let's grab the indicator, move along, get well past this word here so that where I trail out of the word I don't cut that off. We're both selected there. Press the K key. Let's grab the indicator, move a little bit more, right there, press the K key. These are selected, hit the X key. Okay, box select, press the G key, bring them together right there and click. Okay, bring your indicator a little bit. You can see there's some voice here. We don't want to cut that out. Hit the K key, bring the indicator a little bit more. As I say, I can get closer to the beginning of a word, but I want to leave some room at the end of a word for the trail out. Okay, box select these two, hit the X, box select these two, hit the G and drag them together. Okay, now you see we have some spaces here. Now those spaces are a little bit too long, but we don't need to cut much out, but we do need to take some. So we're selected here. Let's hit the K key. Let's take a little bit of that airtime out there. Just a bit. Hit the K key. Okay. Now again, box select carefully and hit the X key. Box select these. Hit the G key. Bring them together. There you go. Move the indicator. Again, give some room where you're trailing out of that word. Hit the K key. Slide the indicator up. Not too close, but we just want to take a little bit of that air out of there. You notice we're not selected here, so let's make sure we box select them. Hit the K key. Cut that out. Box select these two. Hit the X key. Box select these strips. Hit the G key. Drag them together. Okay, now you'll notice a little bit of air in here as well. Not much, but too much. Okay, take some of that air out of there. Otherwise your videos will wrap on with a bunch of pauses between your words. Here we're selected. Hit the X key. Box select these two. Hit the G key. Bring them together. There you go. More air over here. Let's bring that over here. Hit the K key. Slide over a bit. Hit the K key. Oh, we're not selected there. Box select. Hit the K key. Select this airtime here. Hit the X key. Select these two strips, hit the G key, bring them together. Okay, let's grab this here slider bar, slide them through here, grab the other end, bring it through here. Be careful not to run your indicator off the end. We're too close here to this word. Slide the indicator up a little bit. That looks pretty good. Hit the K key. Slide the indicator up, get rid of all that airtime there. Hit the K key. Hit the X key. Drag your left mouse to box select. Hit the G key to group select. Bring them up until you get red and click. Okay, we've got airtime here. Let's go back there. Let's go back here. Give that word a little bit. Hit the K key. Take a little bit of that airtime out. Hit the K. Box select these two. Hit the X key. Box select these two. Hit the G key for grouping. Slide them together till you get the red and click. This little bit of air here will be satisfactory. Let's move up here. Take a little bit of air out of here. Too much air is boring to listen to. Hit the K key. Let's slide up a little bit more. Hit the K key. These two are selected. Let's hit the X. Let's box select these strips. Hit the G to group them. Slide together. There we go. We've got some airtime here. Let's go about there. Hit the K key. Let's move up a little bit. Not too close to that word. Right there. Box select these two. Hit the K key. Box select this airtime. Hit the X key. Box select these two strips. Hit the G to group them. Slide them together. And here. This air here is really okay. This is not good here. I can tell this is all right. Let's move along here. We're at the end of our video.
Let's move our indicator, staying away from these last words here. Hit the K. Let's move the indicator up to this word. Let's box select this. Hit the K key to cut it. Box select what we cut. Hit the X key. Box select these two here. Hit the G to group them. Slide them up. Move the indicator. Well, that's okay. Trailing out will be okay. They're selected. Let's hit the K to cut the end of that video off. And hit the X to get rid of those. Okay, now you see we've lost our picture here, but if you just hit the arrow key right here and go back one frame, okay, it's telling me we're at 1054 here. Let's go back one, there we go, okay, 1053 frames, we have 1053 frames. Okay, so now you'll notice that here, the end of our video says 1848 yet, but that's not true. The end of our video now is 1053, so let's click in here and put that number. 1053. Okay, just click off that, and now the end of our video is here, and you see it changed up here as well. Okay, now we could drag this indicator back, we could shrink this all back down. One thing we can do is slide this back here to get to the front. Okay, but how do we get the indicator there? We could drag it, or we could hold the shift key down and hit the left arrow key, and you see that goes right back. Okay, so now we have our video all chopped up. We could push this here button, and you'll notice these buttons here all tell you what the shortcut is. Okay, the shortcut is shift right arrow, shift left arrow. For play, it is the space bar. Okay, the space bar. So when you mouse over these buttons, Blender is really good. It tells you exactly what the shortcut is. Let's just play a little bit here. Let's push the play. Hit the space bar, and that stops. Okay, that sounds like it plays pretty good. We can hit the key here to back up to the end. Now, we've got a pretty good video there, but we'd like to do a little bit more to it. This here slides your video, and this here will shrink it down, okay? So what we'd like to do now is maybe add some background music to this. So to do that, we could go through here and find the file we're looking for, or we could just shrink that up and we could go here, because I know where the file is, background music. Okay, put that up top, put Blender back down, bring this down. Here is a file of background music we can put on there. We just slide that on there. That's what I want to use for background music. Okay, now again, it's selected already automatically with the white line around it, so that means these are the properties for it. And you can see here, this background music, we'll turn on the mono, and we'll turn on the wavelength. And you see the wavelength is outrageously large opposed to this one, because this is loud. So what we're going to do here is crank this down a little bit. Way down. Well, we don't want to go 0, because that'll be off. There, just 10% of the volume. Now, we also could bring our indicator over here and cut this. Okay, we could bring this over here, but you see it, we could cut it there. We could, we're 1055. We could go back to a few frames, 1052, 1053, 54, 52. We could cut it there. We could press the K key and cut it there. But another thing we could do is we know that we are 1053 frames long, right? So we can go to the time on this strip, and you can see here it is 4447. We could change that to 1053, okay? And we say good to that. You see that? It jumped right in there, okay? So we didn't actually have to cut it. We just changed it right in there. Now, let's play that again and see what we get. Welcome. Now, no video editing tutorial is complete without adding something fancy. So let's move these a little bit to give ourselves some room here. We need a couple more tracks here. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Need a couple more tracks. Let's move our indicator back to the end with shift and left arrow key. Okay, or we could press down here. Now, let's go and let's get something to maybe put a transition or a transformation on this video, just something. So here I have a file browser open. We could go to here. Let's take this picture and let's put that in there. Okay, that's what we've got here. Now you can see it's selected with the white. Now I would like to use that picture, but not that way. And I would like it to go over a certain amount of the video, not too far, maybe 300 frames or so. So if we go right to the end of this picture and we just click on that, there, you see how it got wider there? Now if we hold the left mouse button down, we drag that out, and you see the frame count right in the bottom corner? Give me about 300 frames. There, okay, I got 300 frames of this image. Now of course it's selected with the white frame around it. That tells us these are the properties over here. Now that's pretty big. So what we'll want to do is, there is composting, there's the opacity here. Let's go to transform here. This is the size of that. That is quite large here and under transform. Let's move that down to just 1.0 in the X and also in the Y. 1.0. Okay, that's much better. Okay, we like that size there. Now, the origin shows us the position here. And the position is 50% in the X and 50% in the Y position here, just as it says. Now, another neat thing here is you can rotate this. You can mirror this. If you don't like the H here going this way, you could mirror it on the X and put the H over here. Or if you wanted to invert it upside down, you push the Y and there it gets upside down. Okay, so we could do some transformation tricks with this here image right on here with all of these settings we have here. However, another way to do that is, you can see the add button here. Now you have to have this piece selected when you're adding a transformation. Whatever is selected will get the transformation on it. Now, so we want to transform this piece. Okay, so we go to Effect Strip and let's go to Transform. Okay, now you'll notice I'll choose the Transform and it's right over top here. And the Transform actually covers the whole distance. Let's move this a bit so we can see it there. There we go. It covers the whole distance of this clip that was selected. So if this clip was longer, then the transform would have been longer. Okay, so you must have a strip selected when you add in one of these tools from the add here, one of these effects. And when you do that, then in this case we added the transform. It's 300 frames. Now of course we could shorten it. We could click here on the end and then slide it shorter, but it by default adds the same length, the same properties as what was selected. And we're going to use it for what is selected, but you'll notice because it's selected here, now we have the properties over here. And this says here the effect strip, and it's a transform strip. Okay, so you will notice here that under the compositing, it says cross by default, but we would like to have an overdrop. There. Now you see our video comes back and it puts it on overdrop, much the same as alpha over or alpha under. Okay, so we have our overdrop there, our opacities here. Now, we have the translation unit in percentage here. Now you could choose pixels, percent, and we're going to leave it at percentage here. Now this is the X position and the Y position. Now you can drag these. You see the little arrow there? So with my indicator at the beginning of the video here, I would like in the X position for this to be off of the screen. Okay? So right here on the X, I'm going to click with the left mouse and drag that. You see I'm moving it now? And I'm moving it right mostly off of the screen. Now in the Y, I'd like to move it down here to this corner. So I'm going to click in the Y and also drag the Y. And you see it coming down there? Right down to the bottom. Okay? That's good. Now I'd like to take the X a little bit more, take it right off the screen. So click in the X position and again slide it out. Okay, that's good right there. Now what I would like is I would like to start there. So I'm going to right click in this X box and say insert keyframe. And again in the Y, left click on the insert keyframe. Now I'd like to move the indicator. Just click on the indicator and drag it to another position. Okay? Now I would like to click in the X position and drag the opposite way to bring my image back in. Okay? And I would like to click in the Y and bring it up at the same time. And I think in the X I would like to go a little bit more, bring it in a little bit more. And I'll bring the Y up a little bit more till it touches, right there. Okay, now I'll click in the X and choose keyframe. Click in the Y, right click, and left click keyframe. Okay, now I will move the indicator again ahead a little bit. Now when this comes in, it hits that, it bounces down. Okay, so what I would like to do now is move the X position, or move the Y position maybe. Y position downwards, and the X position sliding to the right to emulate it bouncing. Okay, and the Y position to the left to come down a little bit more to hit the bottom. Okay, so the idea is it came up, hit this, bounced down. Okay, so let's right click in there, left click the keyframe, left click keyframe. Now let's move the indicator again. Now if that bounced there, chances are we're going to move the Y position way up to the top. To show, now we'll move the X way over. And move the Y a little further up to the top. To show that it bounced here, then it bounced up here. Okay? And now we'll hit keyframe, right click, left click. Right click, left click. Okay, so now we've come up, bounced. Now, we're going to come down. You can see we're going to hit this. Okay, so let's move our indicator a little bit more. And now let's come down in the Y. And let's move to the right with the X to emulate that it hit there. Now it's no longer going to go this way, is it? It's hit there, so it's going to come back this other way. So let's go ahead and put right click in the X and left click for a keyframe, right click in the Y. Now let's move our indicator little bit more. And let's show that this is bounced here. Now it's going to run over here. So let's take the X and slide it to the left. It's bouncing back here. Okay, so we could say it bounced there. We bring the Y down a little bit. Okay, so there it came over, bounced there. Now let's right click in there, left click, right click, left click, choose set keyframes, and let's move the indicator back to here, and let's move the X back to the right, all the way to the other image. There we go. To emulate hitting the other image. The Y stays the same. Now we could come down in the Y a little bit, just okay, let's click in the left, or right click on the X and left click, right click in the Y, left click, set keyframes. Now let's move our indicator right to the end. And let's move the X to the left. Okay, about center. And let's move the Y let's just leave it right there. We'll set a keyframe, right click, set the keyframe, set the keyframe. Okay. Now you'll notice that it will move now. When I slide the indicator, you see it moving there? Okay. When I'm scrubbing, that's what this is called, scrubbing, when you move the indicator. When I'm scrubbing, it moves there. And of course, that image now will actually do those things we said and then disappear. Okay, there's many other things we could do with that, but this gives you an idea of how it works. Now remember to choose the overdrop, otherwise you won't get your video back and your image will not be on top of your video. Okay, let's stretch this up a little bit more, and let's just click play and see what we get. Okay, and then our image disappeared. Now right here, we click on frame 1. There we are, frame 1. Okay, so you can see our image starting here, and it did all those things, but we don't really have any sound for it. So let's see if we could do something else. Let's just move this up a bit. Let's go and see if we could get some back. Here's an interesting thing here. Let's bring Blender back. Let's bring this over. Let's put this pop wave on here. Okay, wow. Okay, that's a big file. So we need 300 frames of it. Let's go to time. Let's click in here. Let's put 300. Click off of that. There we go there. Now actually, what we'd like to do, we need mono and display waveform. You know what I'd like to do is I just want one piece of that. What I would like to do is, if you listen to that when we play it.
Welcome.
Okay, you hear it pops. So what we could do is we move the indicator back, and we need a pop right there where it hits. We need it to pop right there. Okay, it's better to move here with the frames. Okay, there's a separation there. We should go one more frame. At 28 frames, we need a pop. So this is selected. Maybe what we will do is we will cut some of this video off of here, the soundtrack here. So let's go ahead and hit the K key, and you see it cut that. Now, if I hit the X key, that section's gone. Now remember, I want it to be at 28 frames. So let's go down here and let's click the 28 frames. There. Now let's select this, and we'd like to move that, but we need to hit the G to allow it to move, and move that till that voice right there is right on the indicator. That's the pop sound. Okay, so let's move the indicator ahead there. Now you see that's not going to work for us because it doesn't actually pop again until there. That says 75 frames. 74, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78. Okay, back to 78 frames. Okay, that's where we'd like another pop, at 78 frames. So what we can do is we'll move this back, and we will hit the K key, then we'll move this forward, and let's hit the K key there. Let's select this piece, hit the X key, let's highlight this piece, let's move the indicator back to 78 frames. You can see down here we're on 77. Let's go up to 78. We've got this piece selected. Hit the G key so we can move it, and let's put that pop right there, under there. Now the next time it hits is up here. So what we'll do is we will hit the K key and cut that file off. Okay, now let's move our indicator until our image comes up to the top here. There. Okay, let's go here and let's increase that. Oh, start to come down. Let's go back. There's the hit right there at 131. Let's try 130. Oh, still 130. Okay, it says 125. So we have this selected. Let's move that back to get the pop on there. Okay, and let's move our indicator ahead, and let's, while it's selected, hit the K key. Okay, now let's move our indicator ahead again till we, right there, we hit another pop here. You can see where we're hitting here. Okay, let's grab our file, move it right to there. Okay, so let's move our indicator again, and let's hit the K key, cut that off. Let's grab it here and move it. Let's move our indicator till we hit the next spot. Okay, let's go here, and let's back up here. We've got 222. There, it's hitting there. Okay, so let's move our pop in under the indicator bar. It's not moving. I have to hit the G key. There we go. There. Okay, so now let's move our indicator again until we hit the other pop. Oh, there we go. Right there somewhere. So what we'd like to do then is slide our indicator in till we're off of this, and it's highlighted. Hit the K key, click on this section, move it over a bit, move our indicator till it looks like it's going to tag here. Okay, we're close. Let's go down here to the bottom. There, it hit there. Okay, so let's move our file over. Let's hit our G key. There. Okay, let's move the indicator over between that, and let's cut off that last little bit. Hit the K key, and it's still highlighted. Hit the X, and it's gone. Okay, so now you will notice, if we scrub this back, that we do have, let's move this right to the end. There we go. Let's highlight this and look at the properties here. Okay. Now, it's telling me the volume, and I think the volume was a little high, so let's go down to about 6. Let's move to the next one, properties. Let's go down to about 6. Move to the next one, properties. Volume, down to about 6. The next one, this is the properties. Turn the volume down to about 6. The next one, properties. Turn the volume down to about 6. And the last pop, turn the volume down to about 6. This should give our ball a little bit of noise when it tags. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit the play button. There you go. Okay, so now we created a transformation there, and we've come in with a little ball, and it bounces around, and you know, you could do many more things with Blender, but that is how you can go about that. And you know, under add you could put text in, and you know, when you choose a text strip, you get a bunch of properties for text. You can change that, but this will get you started. So let's go back to the beginning, and let's go up here, and where we had 25%, let's change that back to 100% now, because we're getting ready to render this video out, and we want to make sure that we have the right frame. The end frame is 1053. We've got all that there. So now if we go ahead and go up to render here and choose render animation, that would be our video, and we select that, and we get this screen. Okay, now you can see the rendering is happening up here, 17, 18, 20, 22, 23. This is the rendering going on. So let that finish rendering now. If you look in the top left corner of your render screen that is opened now, you will see the frames and how fast your animation or video is rendering. And as soon as that is finished rendering, when the top left corner frame count has stopped, you can close that window, and then you can go and check out your animation. And let's see what we get here. Let's take Blender out of the way. Let's go into videos to Blender, and this is the one we were doing. Let's see what we got here. And there you go, folks. You've successfully produced and edited your first professional video with Blender 3.0. Okay, Blender is capable of doing many more things, as you will discover as you're going along, but this will get you started. So congratulations on completing your first Blender professional video editing tutorial. And if you liked this video, give us a thumbs up, or perhaps subscribe to our YouTube channel, or you can join our community on Twitter at HowToPam at Twitter. So thanks for watching another tutorial by HowToPam. Let's talk Linux. Thank you.